and welcome to the introduction of this. I don't want to call it a course or a programme. I want to call it an exploration of behaviour. For me, behaviour is a massive topic. I can talk for England about behaviour and introduce lots of different modalities and how it impacts on us and lots of things. So I'm going to try and narrow it down as much as I can. If you want more information, you can contact me with pleasure. I'll give you the details of that towards the end of the course. So this is an exploration of behaviour, and I wanted to split it up into two sections. One I've kind of titled the logical section, which fits in with me and my personality. I like structure, I like lesson plans and downloads, and I like to know where I'm going with things. So there's going to be some things you can download, there's going to be some handouts, some workbooks and things like that that I will be referring to throughout that part. And the second part is what I use for coaching when I'm coaching clients, and that's the 3 principles, which is more about us being a human being and how that can impact on our relationships with other people, which I think is really important. It's kind of an umbrella that overarches everything that I do, because I can pass on knowledge, we can read books, we can find lots of knowledge about behaviour from lots of different places. But it all depends where we are at the time to how we interpret that and how we put that out to the world, if that makes sense. So our state of mind comes into that, where we are at a certain time, what events we're going through. It all impacts on our behaviour and how we perceive what's going on in front of us. So that's kind of an overarching thing over everything that I'm going to be discussing with you while we're exploring behaviour. So this is something that I will be referring to during this. This is Pam Levin's Cycles of Power. It's a book that was written quite a while ago. I think it's like 60s and 70s. It's a bit heavy going. You can get a copy on Amazon if you wanted to do that. But I've taken parts of that I use quite a lot in my practice. And it's called Ages and Stages, and it's the developmental psychological stages that all human beings go through. And it's split up into 6 different areas, going from birth right through to adulthood. And we recycle those throughout our life. So that's one way of looking at our behaviour. And for some parents, carers, teachers, is it normal? Is what my child or this child in my class is displaying, is it normal? So that can help us, again, remembering the overarching umbrella, but that can help us look at, this is quite a normal psychological stage that this child is going through. I will also be looking at the 4 domains of the self. I'm looking down here because I've got some notes, which is thinking, feeling, behaviour and physiological, what's actually going on in our body. And those 4 things come together, and that's one way of looking at self-esteem. I see confidence and self-esteem as 2 totally separate things. We're talking about our inner self-worth here and what we can help children to build if we're in contact with children. So that's something that I thought might be helpful for you. And also looking through the transactional analysis side of things, what we refer to as drivers. We all have certain things that drive our behaviour. So I thought that might be helpful to look at as well. So that's the logical side of things. And then the human side of things, which we're all human and we all have our little foibles and uniquenesses, is how our thoughts impact our feelings that then impact our actions or behaviour. So those are the 2 different areas that I wanted to cover during this exploration of behaviour. And if you've got any questions, you can contact me. That's absolutely fine. You can agree with what I'm saying, or you can question it. Because again, I don't claim to be an expert. There are people that are more highly intelligent than me and have much more experience. But this is something that I've picked up along the way, which I found really useful. I love learning. I'm constantly evolving as a therapist and a parent and a coach. So yeah, looking back on some videos that I've done a few years ago, my understanding has deepened. So I have no doubts if I look at these in another couple of years, I will have changed a lot by then too. So be kind to yourself and just be curious throughout this exploration of behaviour. That's one thing that I often refer to, is it's not about being judgmental, it's just about being curious about what's going on. Where am I in this situation? I do believe that we co-create relationships, and our behaviour, our state of mind, where we are, comes into each interaction that we have with each person, whether that's a child, a partner, a work colleague, we're 50% responsible for what's actually going on in that relationship. So, a little bit about me before we get started. I'm Jackie Jones, as I said. I'm a mum of 3. My eldest is 32, showing my age, and my youngest is 15. I first started working with children back in the 80s. I trained as a nursery nurse and worked in schools, some special needs, some mainstream schools. I then started as a foster carer. I fostered for over 12 years. And we had probably upwards of 30 children with various special needs, ADHD, oppositional defiance disorder, attachment disorder. There was lots of children coming through our doors, some long term, some short term, some respite just for the weekend. So I was experiencing an awful lot of, I think it's referred to as challenging behaviour. And looking back, it was quite challenging at the time. But that's what started me being interested in learning about psychotherapy and how I could possibly help these children outside of just meeting their basic needs of food, clothing, warmth, shelter, all those sorts of things. I was more interested in how can I make a positive impact on these children's lives. So that was what got me involved in that side of things. I think that's about it for the introduction. So I hope that all makes sense to you. And as we're going on, there will be handouts that you can download throughout this course that hopefully make things a bit clearer. But be prepared to do a little bit of personal work throughout this. Some of the workbooks have got sections that you can fill in where I might ask you questions about what you remember about your past, what you remember about how you were parented. And I will refer maybe quite a bit about parenting, but this also implies for whether you're a teacher, whether you're working with children in a classroom situation, whether you're a parent or a carer or grandparent. It's basically about our behaviour and relationships with other people, and just exploring that and being curious about why we do what we do when we do it. So I hope that's going to be of interest to you. I will be back soon with the next section. Take care.